Uhlmann reporting for TTN-HD Production Live here at Technicolor Studios in downtown Toronto with AARON PHELAN. AARON, what inspired you to get into the business?
Well, I kind of crashed into the business, but you know, I think life inspires you to want to make art and to want to reflect something about life.
Okay.
And yeah, so about 2 years ago, I worked with my wonderfully talented friend who wrote a short film called Home, and it's about seniors in a retirement home, and it's kind of a comedy. So we put that together and made it, with every possible friend we could find helping us, and got into Tiff and into YouTube Guggenheim Play, and yeah, have sort of taken a run from there and continued making things together.
What was it like working on a story in an old age home, and how did you get an old age home, and how was it working with old people?
Okay, a lot of questions. We called every home in the city, and there's a lot that are corporate and they wouldn't talk to us, but we found one that was awesome and they were willing to work with us, and very friendly and fun. We had a translator going around with us because most of the residents were Polish speaking.
Wow.
Working with senior citizens is excellent. Some of the people on that cast were experienced actors who were sort of the right age, but then in other cases there were people we knew, and we got great sort of performances out of both the experienced, the veteran actors, and some of the people who just kind of were that character, Yeah.
And you're finishing up another short film right now.
Yeah.
What is it about? What's at the heart of the story?
Sure. My short film, Dear Scavengers, is about a very crusty man who runs a used appliance store who has this sort of mini culture clash when a whole bunch of little pre-teenage girls kind of tumble through his store on a scavenger hunt. And he's just kind of like losing his mind because he's like, what is going on in my store? Yeah.
Where did you get the idea for a used, what was it?
It's a used appliance
store. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
I was literally just wandering through the junction here in town, through the neighborhood, and I was like, oh, I love the way those shops look. I wonder what kind of like interesting thing could happen in that shop. And then it just kind of came together from there. There's a pawn shop guy who has a pawn shop here in Toronto on Queen Street. You should go in it if you ever get here. It's at like the corner of Queen and Church, and he swears at you. If you go into his store, he swears at you and curses a blue streak. And I'm like, how do you get customers? How do you operate like that, right? But I almost like feel like going in there just for the experience of him yelling at me.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, like I don't know how people do that, but I was like, that's such an interesting idea to like contrast that against the sort of like really fun, sort of safe, bumpered world that we all kind of have as, not all, but many people have as children,
Yeah.
And to sort of bring those two worlds together and let them kind of collide and see what comes out of it. Yeah, so that was kind of like, I guess, all the pieces of how that came together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What has been the most rewarding aspect of being in the business for you?
Oh, for me, the most rewarding thing is to have the chance to work with a dozen or 24 people who are all so immensely talented in their different areas, be it the editor or the graphic designer who's like, putting our titles together right now, who will never get like a single font or a point out of place or a pixel out of place. Like all these wonderful specialists who you get to sort of sit there and then be like, move it a little bit this way. Could we try some colors? Like you give these very sort of simple human things, and then they do wonderful technical things with it. It's really wonderful to work with all of those collaborators. Yeah.
What's the most challenging aspect about being in the business?
That's a really good question, and I can't beat the answer that I heard a few minutes ago about time. But the other thing is like, I think the other thing that's interesting is like knowing how do you find the story or the thing you want to say, because it's never by trying to do it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like you should be a sponge to the world around you, and then something will spark against something else, and then something will come together. Mm-hmm. And it's like you can't just sort of sit down and say, well, I'm going to write my future now.
Yeah.
It's like it sort of has to just speak to you. And I think learning how to do that while living the rest of your life and making a living and all the things that you do, I think that's what's interesting for me, and challenging at the same time.
What advice would you give to someone following in your footsteps?
Yeah, I'll pick up on what I was just saying, like be that sponge to the world around you and just try to take in, whether it's a conversation that you overhear in passing or a book that you read. It's great to read. Don't look at TV and movies as your inspiration to make TV and movies, because you might as well like literally be a chef reserving a meal off of the table. Don't do that. Like go back to life, go to the drawing board of life and like soak things up.
And where's the best place to find out more about you and your projects online?
Yeah, just go to facebook.com/Dear Scavengers, and that's, I'm not going to be able to spell it. It's like a scavenger hunt, SCAVENGERS. and like us, please.
Great. And we can also check you out at aaronphelan.com as well.
Yeah, absolutely. AARONPHELAN.com, and it's spelled AARONPHELAN.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, and congratulations on all of your successes so far, and best of luck with your upcoming projects.
Cool. Thanks, Katie. You too. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you. I'm Katie Uhlmann reporting for TTN-HD Production Live here at Technicolor Studios in downtown Toronto.